Hello and welcome to Belgrade. It's time for the Basketball Champions League Final Four, and we want to get you all prepared for the semifinals and the matchups. So we kind of wanted to invite the best in the business. Unfortunately, we could only get Dickon Lloyd-Smith, but we also got Aleksandar Dzikic. Coach, it's a pleasure to have you here. Kind of feels weird to say welcome because we're actually in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah, I was your third option. You literally picked me up in a coffee shop.
Yeah,
Listen, this is literally my neighborhood.
yeah.
So you just explain how you find me.
We literally went to the coffee shop trying to discuss like who should we get on the show, like
And
who's
I'm
got
sitting there
who's got the BCL knowledge, and then this guy's over there like
drinking
yeah,
coffee,
yeah,
cappuccino. Okay.
yeah, talking about Hapoel Jerusalem's defense.
No, not really. I don't talk about it anymore.
Anyway, the point of this is to kind of introduce the fans what to expect in the first game. We'll do the second game later, but first up we got Tenerife and Peristeri. Let's go through the stats composition. The two teams which play the slowest pace, and the two teams which turn over the ball the least, basically number one and number two, Peristeri on top of the chart, Tenerife right behind them. So how do they keep this control all over the season? Like, is this the point of emphasis for coach to slow them down or to have them under control?
Listen, both of them, I believe they will score in the fast break if possible, obviously. But we are talking about, we'll see the two teams with dominant ball handlers. Call them generals on the floor or whatever. I mean, on one end, it's, I don't know how to call him, a legend, whatever.
Uh, eternal,
Yeah,
eternal. Marcelo.
bro, that's pretty good word. And the other end, actually, it's another legend. So it's like a clash of titles.
Semi-eternal.
Yeah, so it's
Correct.
it's a clash of
on
titles.
his way to eternal.
I'm,
Eternal soon.
I'll listen. Yeah, but obviously, Huertas versus Regland. I mean, okay, yeah, it's team versus team, but those two are super important for both coaches, for both styles, for their teammates. If we want to be honest, probably there's a little bit bigger gap behind Ragland. I'm talking about the composition of the team then, because actually Coach Vidoreta can afford to give some off minutes to Ertas without like serious drop in a quality of the game. But as you said, both teams are controlling what's going on. They have generals on the floor. That's one of the reasons that number of turnovers is down. And it's pretty clear, like stylistically, they're different. But I believe that both teams they know what they want. So that's another reason that they look good on the floor, meaning the number of turnovers is limited.
Coach, in the press conference, there were questions from several members of the media that we have here about catching teams by surprise. If we were to look at two rosters, would you say of the two that maybe Tenerife has the flexibility to maybe break the mold and come out running a bit more because they have more options behind Huertas? Or if you were to say which team has the ability to catch the other by surprise?
Well, listen, if you want to keep it real, you need to make a decision. Do you really want to spend time on surprises? Actually, can you work on surprises and just prepare something so the time that you spend on it will give you good enough results, so you will have enough benefits out of it. And I'm pretty sure all the coaches here, they know, like, we are here for a reason. We played well this season, well enough to end up on the Final Four, which means that they played enough. So, like, there's another question, like, do you really want to change or just adjust? Yeah, little adjustments, obviously, but then again, like, do you really have a time for it? And again, it's just a fight between the time and the benefits that you could have doing those things. Obviously, time spent together. When we talk about Tenerife, and a well-known fact that like
The continuity is what
that
they
the
are.
continuity is unmatched.
Right.
I mean, it will give them a little bit of more room to operate, sort of, to use the term. On the other end, Peristeri will probably try to, maybe just create some more options for some other guys than Bregland, but when the game is on the line, it's pretty obvious what they're going to do.
Like a lot of people consider Peristeri reaching the Final Four a surprise. I kind of don't think so because we've seen something similar happen like 2 years ago when Ragland was in Holon. This is kind of like a copy-paste version of Holon because you can take that Kenny Williams is the CJ Harris of Peristeri. You can take that Mitru Long is the McGee for Peristeri, or if you want the homegrown guys, you have Kaselakis, what was Pnini for Holon, and you have the high flyers like Kaiser, you have Renfros and Thompsons here. So it's kind of not that big of a surprise actually to see Ragland take his team all the way to the Final Four.
Well, their group was, I believe, the hardest.
Yeah,
the group was
both groups, the regular season, and the round of 16.
And like
even the play-ins, they had to defeat Ritas away from home in Vilnius, and Ragland came up with a 25-15 a game, which is incredible. So
yeah, sure.
And
that's what they do.
Yeah.
and they came back from 3 losses twice, right? So they looked down and out in the regular season, and they looked down and out again in the round of 16. So,
well, basically in the group they have Hapoel Jerusalem, they have Pinar, Karšiaka,
Yep.
really good teams, and obviously they had Tenerife and themselves. So all of a sudden, like coming out of that group, it's a success. And Final Four, it's a semifinals, 1 game, 40 minutes. The well-known sentence, everything is possible.
come on.
And listen, he made me
Come
do
on.
that. He said
In order to
whoever
avoid
the most cliches buys the coffee afterwards. Okay.
And I was about to say, in order to avoid being all, roundabout or whatever.
Both teams played hard.
Let's avoid the both teams play hard. Let's get into specifics. Let's open up a section called How They Play. We'll start with Tenerife because not just because we think they're favorites, because we're going by logic. They're named as the home team in the semifinals, so let's use them first. We talked about the stats composition. What is the kind of style of play that Tenerife present year in, year out with Jus Vidaret?
Well, listen, it's based on abilities of their guards. And obviously they have, their bigs, go-to bigs. One is a go-to big. The other one is a little bit more of like a follower, logistics, super hard big. Then, on a position 2, actually, they have 2 guys who are a nightmare for every defense, like leaving them open. And I'm talking about Stalin and Guy. It will not. It's never a good decision for any defense. So all of a sudden they have size, they have experience, they have time spent together, it's super hard, and I'm pretty sure like it's hard to expect that their opponents will come up with some coverage that they didn't see so far. So like and basically they're one of the top teams in Europe. I'm talking about any league, in a like a read react or call it automatics. Like simply like they don't insist. Like if defense is taking the option A, they're going to option B. From option B to option C, and they're flawless.
There is no correct coverage for Tenerife, right?
I mean, like they're just
they're just playing by instinct nowadays.
They know what to do in almost every scenario.
Yeah,
and that's always a style.
DLS, you think it's a problem that they got a bunch of 30-year-olds on their team because their average age is 33?
No, in a word, like that helps them. These guys, there's nobody that's not played on the stage this big before. There's nobody that comes into this environment, checks in from the flight, goes straight to media day, and then hits the hotel and doesn't sleep. All these guys, they're pros. They know. Yeah, they know the routine.
Even Guy, who's the youngest guy, actually. Yep. Like he's done this.
Guy is the youngest guy.
Oh yeah, I totally intended that. Even he did this in the NCAA.
Exactly.
I mean, he won
exactly.
it. He was one of the main guys there, most outstanding player, if I'm not mistaken. So even the young guys know this environment. So maybe like all season long, you probably don't want to have team average of 33 years old, but in this kind of environment, it sounds like a major advantage.
The only flip side to that is the emotional charge, right? Do you you'd expect every player to be able to get themselves up for it, but if you've done this 5 times, if you're Tenerife,
but you're too close to big price. I think that should not be an issue. I think they're here for a reason. They know what they need to do in order to win. They want to do it. They play the finals. They play Final Fours too many times. They were winning this. So come on. I mean, it's another cliche. They know what they need to do in order to win.
Coach, we should have left you at the cafe, man.
Yeah.
Tell us about how they play. What did you notice offensively for Tenerife?
Well, as I said, they're like transition from like fast break to early offense to set offense. It's close to flawless, based on the time they played together. They have some healthy balance between going inside, pick and roll game and screening game. Honestly, they can shoot, they can play inside. We'll see how they're going to react if their opponents try to switch. But again, that's like the biggest question of the tournament of this Final Four is how the teams will react to switching and who will be the best in finding a solution.
Coach,
Yep.
you played against Tenerife.
I did.
That two-man game with Huertas and Shamadini, how difficult is that to navigate?
It's a five-man job.
I was about to say.
No, it's a five-man job. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard. Listen, we were preparing last year for them. We beat them. I still don't know how. And
Nobody does.
thank you. and in one moment, obviously, Marcelinho figured out they are ready for this and this, and he took over. Instead of him being the guy who is finding passes, finding open man, he was the guy who was trying to score. And he can do it. He can switch. He has that ability to score on and off from hey, I will play for the others. I will play for myself. I'll score if the team needs me. And honestly, Regland is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
In a different type of, stylistically, different type of basketball. But he's okay, if my guys are, scoring, if they don't need me to score, I'll be the guy who will just keep everybody happy. But if it's needed, game on the line, here I am. And I did it before. So let's try.
We'll talk about the two of them a bit later, but you over the years, you kind of always wanted to notice Tenerife's defense. You always wanted to have more emphasis on their defense because of their offense. Nobody talks about their defense, but it was actually really good all these years. Has anything changed this year?
Statistically, yes.
Yeah.
I think that means nothing, personally, especially in a Final Four. That team's been great defensively for so long, a machine. The same way that they read and react, or it's not even read and react, it's instinctively, coach called it automatic, right? They're not even reading. They're just perceiving and doing, right? So the same way they like that on offense, they like that on defense. And they know, if you have Guerra, he's going to be dropping. If you have Shermadini, he's probably going to be up more aggressive on the pick and roll. And everybody else on the backside just snaps. And it happens. But so in a Final Four, I don't expect them to be anything other than one of the best defensive teams here.
And there is also another thing. I just want to mention that it's going to be interesting, and I'm really waiting to see how they're going to handle, Regland. What kind of approach they'll have? Are they going to try and cut him off, or they're going to just press him as hard as possible, make it, or they're going to separate him from the team? Okay, so we will live with your points, but you will not be the guy who keeps everybody happy and keeps everybody involved. And then there is always a question, I'm talking about it for a long time. And now we will use Regland as an example, but basically every time when you have a dominant ball handler, is it better to cut him off, which means that he preserves energy?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, instead of him being the initiator of offense, he will be the guy who creates the points, which is two different roles. Or they're going to, deal with Regland full court and trying to, have some kind of ball pressure on him, trying to change what they do. So that decision is, I think it's pretty important.
One team actually tried to make Regland a scorer, I think 2 seasons ago in Israel, a team called Hapoel Jerusalem, and he ended up scoring 40-something against them in the playoffs. So maybe the way we...
It was before me?
You would have remembered if Regland scored 40 on you, I bet. Yeah. And your players would have remembered that.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, that was before me, yeah. We had a different approach to Regland. Obviously, he's that good that he needs to have so-called special treatment.
Do you know the player that makes a slight change when Tenerife played against Peristeri earlier, especially the last game. Maybe Salin wasn't such a big factor, but they have Salin back now. And the player that I'm also wondering is Sastre. Do they try and throw some size at Raglan?
Yeah, that position. If there is some potential problem, is obviously this year we saw the Peristeri using small unit.
Yep.
Playing with smaller guards, like basically playing without let's use the term formation 3-man. And actually that could be advantage for a team of Tenerife, as all other Spanish teams here in tournament. They're huge on the positions 3, 4, and 5. They're super huge, so it's going to be clash of styles. It's going to be size versus speed, meaning scoring ability, or size and rebounding, controlling. Another thing also that I want to mention, I really want to hear two of you, if everything goes bad, if nothing is working, who has a more ability to create something out of nothing?
Elijah Mitru-Long, probably.
It's a great question. I think if you look at
Love.
If you look at
too,
Peristeri, they maybe have 2, 3 guys. If you look
guys. They have 3
guys.
guys. That's what I want to say. I want to make it. I want to say it loud. They have 3 guys who can do something out of nothing.
Yeah, and if you look at Tenerife, you're probably looking at one guy who's called Guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
Good job, Nick.
The thing is, it's like good luck with systematically letting somebody from Tenerife shoot from outside. Just good luck with it.
Yeah, it's amazing because a lot of their players actually have better numbers shooting in the BCL than in Liga Endesa. I don't know if it's the Wilson balls and the better grip of it, but Sastre's shooting this season has been crazy in the BCL. So this is kind of the guy, I can see him being a key factor here. But speaking of keys,
there was a game when Sastre was huge.
22.
No, in
Bilbao in the Final Four.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he understands Marcelinho the best, and Marcelinho understands him the best. They have these couple of plays which are not even set plays. It's basically him catching his defender off guard when he's trying to top block him. So Sastre either cuts from the 45 to the rim, or they have the little curl where nobody expects the pass. It's trying to be like a decoy play, and then Marcelinho always finds Sastre on those layups. So this is something that's really tricky with Tenerife, with the instincts, with the automatism that they have. It's going to be crazy. Key. We have 2 players labeled as master keys. They unlock every single defense. It's easy to say who the 2 are, Marcelinho and Joe Ragland. Let's talk about Marcelinho.
Well, listen, it's super hard to say something that nobody heard before. First of all, he's a freak of nature. We can say whatever he wants. I have no idea how old is he.
He's almost your age.
Thank you. That means that he's...
Or you're almost his age.
No. That means he's still in a great shape. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it's... listen, one of the things that I will remember my whole life is the energy on the floor last year, the game that we played. I was you prepare for it, and then you coach against it. It's right there in front of you, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what is this? And he has that. And he doesn't look like somebody who will stop. We were talking about Ragland. He can be, keeping everybody involved. He can be a guy who can score. He can literally, just say, hey, it's my time, and I'm going to do it. There's a thing, again, that we mentioned that, who can take the, creative points. And... who can, just do something for a team that maybe it's unexpected, whatever. Another battle that we have to watch closely, it's actually in a position 5. They're different.
Yep.
Okay, they're different type of bigs. Obviously, Shermadini is more of the go-to guy. If he catches the ball deep, he's very dangerous. He's very dangerous. Guerra is another type, more mobile, strong, aggressive rebounder. Not the greatest option if you want to switch and box him out. On the other end, you have Thompson. And you know what? Thompson is very good mid-range shooter. Even
Very
with the long
underrated
range.
mid-range
Very
shooter.
underrated mid-range shooter. And like we will talk about the coverages of Regland. Like whatever you decide, if your choice, and we saw that in the games in a series versus Bone, for some reason they were giving Thompson a lot of open space, and he can do it. Renfro is a different type.
Yeah, he's more of a vertical
very,
option.
Yeah, he's a light, mobile, athletic,
Yeah.
vertical guy. So, but you know what? If you watch those games against Bone, maybe that's not the best example. Like they were really, really fighting to defend the pass to low post.
Yep.
So I'm not sure that even if Tenerife decide to post up, that it's going to be like super easy, that communication between a passer and a low post guy, that is going to be like, I think they're spending a lot of time protecting that low post spot. They are super aware of, of that position and who they are on that position.
Yep. You mentioned one of the underrated players that we picked. It's Thompson. Obviously, like when teams jump out and hedge or show whatever they do against Ragland, they kind of want the center to be the decision maker in 4 versus 3. But usually we talk about the passing because we're kind of used that the passing is the biggest advantage 4 versus 3. But with Thompson, it's specific because of his mid-range shooting. He just catches and shoots. So this is the kind of guy that could actually go off for 20 points because of the coverage on Ragland.
That shot could break a coverage, right? If he makes that shot.
Yeah, again, like if you watch that series versus Bone, they had different coverages. Like, and the funny part is like, if Perister decides to hit the roller like they were doing with Thompson, and hitting the Renfro is a little bit different than Thompson. The thing is, all 3 guys were like heavy pick and roll players, and we're talking about regular Mitchell Long and Love. There's a very specific detail. They play one-on-one after X5 things that he did his job, like he will use the show or hedge, whatever, and then all of a sudden they go around the X5, and now it's like ISO play, and all 3 of them are pretty good at it.
Yep.
So the decision on Tenerife side is like how long you want to stay and help while you're helping on the pick and rolls. It's very important. It's very important.
Underrated for Tenerife, we picked Timo Abromaitis.
Well, is it definite then they will not be complete? They will miss.
Tourna camp? We don't know. We don't know.
about
Okay.
it.
So let's say in this moment we think that he's not going to play, whatever that means.
I
So-
mean, the incredible thing for the 2 of them is that almost doesn't make a difference because they can both do the same
Yeah, they
things.
do. They're doing the same thing, but like his ability to shoot literally opens up everything for everybody. Meaning, like if you want to have a real like a deep roll game, you got to have a stretch 4.
Yeah.
And he's that type of guy.
Yeah.
I mean, good luck with letting him open. Another thing is like, he's pretty good coming off the screens.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the X4s have to be able to be ready to defend screens, which is not too many teams, using.
Yep.
So basically, their screening game is not only for 2 position where we have Salin and Guy. They can do it on a 4. Then again, the guys who can play as how to call them, alternative 4s.
You could.
Yeah, I mean they're changing a little bit, but we'll see. He's the guy that's going to be important tonight.
He's a guy that shot 75% from the left corner for an entire season in the BCL. So he's probably we always think about Salin and Guy and the other shooters, but Abromaitis might be the most automatic shooter, catch and shoot, in the Final 4.
Yeah, he's those two are ready to work a lot coming off the screens. Like they're basically they're like very, very hard working, type of players. On the other end, we have Williams. If Williams have a good night, coming off the screens, he can hurt any team.
Yep.
And especially in the moments when Regland is on the bench and maybe some ISOs for Mitro Long or Love could be something that Coach Patnulis wants.
Talk about instant offense, guys. Obviously, for Tenerife, it's Kyle Guy. This is incredible for somebody who joined mid-season that he can just take over like that. That he went on that streak of like 5 games of 25 plus points, like joined only TJ Schwartz in the history of BCL with such numbers and such a short span of games. He just immediately took over and clicked with them incredibly well. His career has been kind of up and down, then again, but probably like his best games were under extreme pressure. Even in the playoffs in Spain when he was in Badalona, his best games were in the playoffs. In the college when it mattered the most, he was the best. So this kind of might be your low key. We call them instant offense, but probably MVP favorite if they win the title.
Well, listen, they're 100%. The way they play him, Salin, Abramovich, probably some other guys, they have a green light in transition.
Yep.
So, like, they open, they will shoot. Really doesn't matter. Is it the start of possession, middle, or the end of possession? And as you said, like, how come that he was, like, he became so important in such a long period? Stylistically, this is a very good fit for him. This type of basketball and offense fits him.
We always talk about with Tenerife the way that they recruit. They have copy-paste players. It's not that it's the same guy. But it's like as soon as you see them arrive, copy-paste, perfect. But and Kaugai is different to any player they ever had. But at the same time, copy-paste is going to work.
But sure. But to go back at the start, we said how many years they're together. I mean, Coach Vidoreta is what?
Okay, so let's go like this.
He's there like
Coach Vidoreta has been there
7 of last 8.
Yes.
Something like that.
7 of the last 8.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there for such a long time. Even before they joined the BCL, he was the creator of the initial Tenerife. But most of this core has been together since 2019 when the big
how many
three
years
of
is that,
Salin, Shermadini, and Huertas joined.
Yeah.
But you then had returning players
Dornekamp.
like Dornekamp from year 1 of the BCL when he won. Abramovich,
Yes.
year 1 and year 2, year 3 when they played the final, he was back. Then you brought in guys. Coach, you always talk about stability and knowing your coach and everything.
Yeah,
and then
stability.
continuity. And then even the role players, like the guys that you don't think about. Fran Guerra's first minutes as a professional player came from Chus Vidoreta in Estudiantes.
Of course.
Edgar Vicedo's first minutes as a senior player were in Estudiantes with Coach Vidoreta. So they know the system. And even Marcelinho, when he was recruited to Tenerife, he probably thought, I enjoyed playing for Chus in Bilbao like 10 years ago. Let's try this. So this is the core, and they've been together since 2019 mostly, but I would look at it as even longer because of the familiarity with each other and the coach. So
Well, then stop asking me like what we can expect
I'm
in
not-
offense.
I'm not-
The same thing that they're doing for years. Just move on. Come on.
yeah, we're just perfect. We have a section called hardest to guard, and
Wait, before we do that, for Peristeri,
oh yeah,
who is the instant offense? Who are we going to choose? They have 3, but who are we going to choose?
They have 3.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to choose. You choose.
I'll choose Jermaine Love because of, like when you look a lot of the numbers and analytics and stuff that people say that the mid-range is dying and stuff, but if you have a guy who can hurt you from the mid-range, it's extremely good for your team.
There was a game this morning in some other
Some other sport.
sport about mid-range. So I'll be
Different
quiet
continent,
now.
maybe.
Yeah.
So I'll be quiet about mid-range.
Exactly. You understand my point. So if you have like Jermaine Love who can burn you from that point in between the 2 defensive lines, then that's instant offense for you.
Another guy that can be like, if everything goes right for Peristeri, it's another Final Four MVP candidate.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah, low key. Okay, hardest to guard. We asked you to pick one type of play for Tenerife, which is hardest to guard for the opponent, and I'm kind of shocked that you went with what they call Argentina.
Yeah, Argentina. Well, listen, that's all. It's old play, but they're playing it to the perfection, and they're playing it for everybody. For 4 men, for 5 men, for 2 men coming off the screen. They have all the
Talk us through it.
counters.
Talk us through it. For those that don't know,
Yeah.
talk us through what it looks like.
It's like early offense play where point guard, the ball handler. Sorry, it's just changing the side of the offense from one side to another. Usually using the screen. Sometimes it's just the so-called logistics pick and roll, meaning helping point guard to go from side to side. At the same time, there is a baseline screen, box to box, 4-4, 4-5, and when they have fours, four can read coming up, going down. If it's for the 5, they're looking down low. Sometimes it's just a fake slip screen for shooters, and they have 2, as we said. And then you sleep on Huertas, he just go all the way, and they're playing that for like super long time. And for the teams who wants to learn how to run the play, they are pretty good at it. Pretty good. And like again, that's another thing, how they're gonna defend. And then I will just add another one, so that it's like that's hard. I mean, not hard to guard, but they have to like really prepare for it. And the other one is like I really want to see how they're gonna treat all the screens for shooters. And Peristeri likes to play that physical type of, they really like to put the bodies on your, cutting lanes and everything. So that means that option A probably will not be there. But as you said, there is option B and C. So we're going to see how they're going to match the physicality of Peristeri defense on a perimeter.
The interesting thing is that coming up to we haven't really seen as much screening game for Tenerife in the last few games. We've seen a lot of guys coming off ball screens and taking a shot, the ball handler. We haven't seen as many screening actions as we normally do.
Well, that's a part of it. Like you asked me before, like is there going to be some kind of surprises? They can say like, okay, like now we're using those type of offenses, and then as a potential response to the small ball of Peristeri, they can come out with Guy and Salin together.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which means now you have 2 guys that you have to cover, and obviously Huertas can pass. Most of the time, he can do whatever he wants to do. So that could be the answer for the small ball Peristeri or size.
Hardest to guard for Peristeri, no surprises there either. It's Ragland pick and roll, but we're not just talking about any kind of pick and roll. There is a specific one which he enjoys the most, right?
Yeah. Again, like Tenerife preparing. So another thing, I just want to mention that for the fans watching the game today. Like it's going to be interesting how they're going to treat Ragland. Or is he going to have like a special kind of treatment on a pick and roll? Because if we want to be honest, he's a different type of player than Mitru Long and Love in a pick and roll. I mean, Love and Mitru Long, I mean, they're basically trying to score. That's their primary idea. And Ragland, he can do everything. He can pass. He can, play versus under. He can, play versus any coverage.
Is the middle of the floor the most dangerous spot for Ragland in pick and roll?
Yeah, pretty much. Listen, what was very specific for this series with Bon, like they were setting systematically. They were setting a super high pick and roll and stuff and Bon was trying to play close. They were setting the screen super high, and once he beat the coverage, it was like wide area.
So much space. So much space.
And
game over.
Well, it's a problem.
You were this close to swearing, I know.
No. I wanted to say something.
I mean, you can swear in Serbian, probably they don't.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks for this. This wraps up the first part. Stay tuned because we're coming back for the preview of the Game 2.